Yeah, hi, I'm Simon, and I'm a principal scientist at the Marine Megafauna Foundation. And our job there is working with some of the largest species in the ocean, so animals like whale sharks and manta rays, and we work on how we can best protect them. So whale sharks are an amazing species. We think they are the largest fish that has ever lived, based on the fossil record so far. So absolutely massive. They get quite a bit longer and heavier than a school bus. So the biggest that's been um, measured was about 65 feet long. So huge fish. They're totally harmless and placid to people. So they're just planktivores. So they eat little zooplankton and things like little fish if they can get them as well. One of the things we've been really interested in with whale sharks is their reproduction, because we know so little about it. So there's only been one pregnant female whale shark that's ever been examined, and that was way back in 1995. And yeah, we haven't been able to learn anything since. So some colleagues of ours working in the Okinawa Aquarium had managed to get a human ultrasound machine used for monitoring pregnancy and things, and put it in a waterproof case and get it underwater in their aquaria. So they were starting to be able to monitor the pregnancy and other things going on in some of their aquarium animals. And we thought, well, wouldn't it be cool if we could get that out into the field? And the best place to do that seemed to be the Galapagos Islands, because that's one of the only places where we can consistently find big adult female whale sharks. Yeah, it was really interesting getting this into the field for the first time, because it was literally the first time they had used this equipment outside the aquarium. And there we were, traveling sort of 30 hours in a tiny boat up to the very northernmost island in the Galapagos. Like it's a very remote area. So everything kind of has to go right. And the equipment works well. The issue is always being able to keep up with the sharks. Because even though they're very relaxed and they're just swimming quite placidly past us, it's still very hard for us to keep up with them underwater. So to be able to spend enough time with them, kind of 30 seconds to a minute, to be able to use the ultrasound wand to be able to actually like scan their whole belly area. Rui, the scientist that was doing the ultrasounding, he had attached a propeller mount to his tank, which I refer to as like the jetpack, so that he was able to have the big briefcase sized ultrasound in one hand and a kind of a trigger accelerator for the jetpack in his other hand, and that was how he was able to go ahead and actually get ultrasound measurements of these sharks. So yeah, the other thing we were trying to do is just make sure that we weren't um, we the sharks didn't really know we were there. So we were trying to make sure that we weren't disturbing them with too many bubbles and things, and that we were just approaching nice and gently, so that it wasn't scaring them in any way. And yeah, it all worked pretty well actually. Like for some of the sharks that were thankfully a little bit slower moving, we were able to get really good scans. It's crazy because even though whale sharks have a relatively high profile, I mean they're enormous, as the world's largest fish and things, and there's whale shark tourism in some parts of the world. So for a shark, we know quite a lot about them. But then we've only ever found one pregnant female. We don't really know where the adults spend most of their time. So there's definitely still a lot out there to figure out. And there at the Galapagos, we have been able to deploy satellite tags on quite a few of the sharks now. So we've been able to see where they go when they're leaving the Galapagos, and they seem to spend a lot of time out in the open ocean. So I think going forward, like we hope to continue this work, and as I said, at different times of the year and things, but also maybe find some other oceanic islands, like volcanic islands, like the Galapagos, where we might be able to intercept them at different times of the year, and that could be a pretty good place to learn more about them as well. I actually grew up watching conservation documentaries and things, and reading books about conservation here in New Zealand, where I'm from. And that really inspired me that scientists were doing a lot to protect endangered species, and that like also they seemed really nice, and that looked like a pretty awesome job for me as well. So that's kind of how I got into it. And then when I started studying, I got very interested in sharks and rays because there was so little known about them at the time. And there's still, as I said, we've still got some mysteries out there, but we're definitely learning more and more about them, and we're doing a better and better job at protecting them as well. So that's what keeps me kind of got me into it, but keeps me really inspired as well. And that some of the places we're working now, we're starting to see more and more whale sharks each year, and that's what makes me really happy.